In a small garage in Los Altos, California, a young Steve Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak built the first Apple computer. It was 1976, a time when computers were the size of furniture, and only for professionals. But Jobs had a different vision. He dreamed of a computer for the everyday person. Beautiful, personal, and revolutionary. By 1980, Apple had gone public. It was one of the fastest-growing companies in America. Steve Jobs was hailed as a tech genius, a bold innovator. But beneath the success was tension. Steve's perfectionism, while genius, often clashed with the growing business culture at Apple. In 1985, the unthinkable happened. Apple, the company Steve Jobs built from nothing, removed him from his leadership role. Internal politics, management disagreements, and a power struggle with then-CEO John Sculley led to his resignation. Steve Jobs was forced out of his own company. At just 30 years old, the visionary founder was out, and Apple moved on without him. To the world, it looked like the end of his story. But in reality, it was just the beginning. Most people would have given up, but Steve Jobs didn't. He went on to start a new company called Next, a computer company aimed at education and businesses. The machines were powerful, beautifully designed, but too expensive. Next struggled commercially, but was ahead of its time. Meanwhile, Jobs also bought a small animation studio from George Lucas. He called it Pixar, yes, that Pixar. And while Apple was stumbling without him, Jobs was slowly building something extraordinary. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film. It was a massive success and changed the animation world forever. Back at Apple, things weren't going so well. The company had lost its identity. Sales were falling. Microsoft was dominating with Windows. Apple was bleeding money and struggling for innovation. The very company that once challenged the status quo had now become a shadow of its former self. Apple needed help. It needed its visionary back. In 1996, Apple acquired Next, the very company Jobs had built after leaving. But it wasn't just about the software. Apple was bringing Steve Jobs back. Quietly at first. Then, in 1997, he officially returned as interim CEO. He walked into a company that had lost its soul and decided to rebuild it, one bold decision at a time. He simplified the product line, cut the excess, and started thinking about the future. In 1998, Apple launched the iMac. It was unlike anything else in the market. Colorful, sleek, and beautifully designed. It wasn't just a computer, it was a statement. Suddenly, Apple was cool again. Jobs put design and user experience at the heart of everything. No detail was too small. With designer Jony Ive by his side, they transformed not just Apple, but the tech industry as a whole. Then came the iPod in 2001, a tiny device that could hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. It wasn't the first MP3 player, but it was the best, and it had Apple's magic. With iTunes and a sleek interface, the iPod turned Apple into a lifestyle brand. People lined up around the block. The white earbuds became iconic. Apple was no longer just a computer company. It was now shaping culture. In 2007, Steve Jobs walked on stage in a black turtleneck and jeans and introduced a product that would change the world forever: the iPhone, an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. It combined everything into one device. No keyboard, just a touchscreen. It was revolutionary, and it marked the beginning of the smartphone era. The iPhone didn't just save Apple, it redefined it, and soon the world. With the iPad, App Store, MacBooks, and the expanding ecosystem, Apple became the most valuable company in the world. Its influence stretched far beyond tech, into entertainment, media, education, and even health. All of it traced back to Jobs' core belief that technology should be both powerful and beautifully simple. In 2011, after years of battling cancer, Steve Jobs stepped down as CEO. On October 5th of that year, the world lost one of its greatest innovators. But Steve Jobs' legacy lives on, not just in the products we use, but in how we think about technology, creativity, and leadership. He taught us that great things take courage, that failure is not the end, and that even when the world doubts you, one person with a vision can change everything. "Here's to the crazy ones," Jobs once said. "The misfits, the rebels, the ones who see things differently." Steve Jobs didn't just see things differently. He built the future.